Well, how about something for the taxpayers? Yeah, that's
taxpayers flag.
Dear to your heart.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got one. Do they have one?
Yeah, it's white.
A white flag?
Yeah, it stands for surrender.
Taxpayers flag is a surrender flag.
We give up. Take whatever you want. Well, it's Talking Racine time, and we know something you don't know. We're not going to tell you today, but we'll get around to it. This is Mr. George Myers.
Good morning.
A recipient of illicit knowledge. Mr. Jim Spodek, one of the most dangerous men in Racine, producer of Talking Racine, and I am not going to reveal my name.
Called the secrecy meeting.
Well, we've got
City Hall is catching up with it.
Well, one of the things we've got going on today is an employee resignation agreement down at City Hall. Somebody in the employment of the city has resigned under an agreement with the city, and nothing's going to be said about it for the time being. It's all hush-hush. There's going to be some money involved, your money and our money. Anybody who pays taxes in this town, some of your coin is going to be involved, but it's not going to be revealed yet. But it's interesting because there's some of the details that we absolutely know about this and other things that we want to confirm. One of the things that we know is that this is yet again another cover-up by the part of City Attorney Scott Letney. So I personally have come up with a slogan, up, up, and away. I like it. I'm going to have buttons printed up.
We should make a flag out of that.
First you screw up. That's the first up. Then you cover up. That's the second up. And then it's time to go away. Yeah, man, oh man. Wait till you guys find out the details of this. Once we get them confirmed, it's going to make you nuts.
Here's where I want to go a little bit with it, though, but I want to play a little clip here. And this is back in February, end of February 2019, of Harry Waite, who did filed an ethics complaint on Scott Letney. And it was on a number of things, and one of them was Machinery Row. Another one was the secret court that Letney was involved with Alderman Widener. And then, of course, this employee who, which we all know, it was the drug test that was failed.
I wish to speak tonight about the alarming issue within the city of secrecy. Secrecy in public is a cancer. It is anti-democratic, impedes open debate and discussions of public issues, and infringes upon our rights to know what our government is doing and how and what public resources are being used and abused.
And so from what I've gathered and what, it's all over the internet now.
Yeah, and the person's name and everything known, we're going to keep it revealed.
We'll leave it alone for right now because I want to get the hard details first, because there is records requests in, and we're going to push it. We'll have it next week, but a substantial amount of money, is, from what I understand, was paid out to this employee.
And one of the things we want to emphasize is we got nothing against the employee.
No.
And we got nothing against the fact that against him for having failed a drug test. But the problem that we have with this is that somebody failed a drug test and it was covered up.
Right. The cover up again is costing the taxpayers, and that's really the issue here. And
and the problem I have with it all is I look at that sequence, guys, and you have a person that failed a drug test. So he gets a job illicitly. He should not have gotten a job. Pressure gets on him to get out of that job. And this is just what it seems like. I mean, as we get more details, we'll follow it up. And then he gets paid a considerable amount of money to resign from that job. So, I mean, that makes no sense. Gets the job illicitly, because and goes into the job, gets forced to leave it, and then gets paid money to leave it.
Correct.
Yeah. A job he never should have been able to get in the first place.
Well, as far as him not being able to get it, I don't have a real issue if the explanation of why he failed the drug test is legitimate, and the fact that they're going to hire him anyway is made open to everybody, and they explain in thorough detail why they want to breach the drug policy for the city of Racine.
But when that was
why they want to do it and why they think it should be allowed, and let the council discuss it.
right, but when that was brought up
That
to the
wasn't
council,
done.
wasn't it brought up to the
Yes, it
council?
was brought up to the council in 2015.
Let's open this up. I have a
Right.
question about it, and it was shut down.
Shut down.
Yeah.
And here's the other
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
That's what I
absolutely.
thought. Yeah,
It's a
so that was
payoff.
attempted.
But here,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What you're saying is a good objection. It should have been brought up and discussed, but when it was attempted to do that,
And who covered it up? Attorney Letney.
Letney was
Letney
right
covered
there.
that up.
Yeah.
Now you have Mayor Mason looking at this, thinking, "Whoa, I don't want this. It's going to come out. It keeps coming." And especially with this ethics complaint, which I know it was involved in an ethics complaint, I'm sure they knew this is coming back and it's going to have to be discussed. Mason had to get rid of that. And so let's just use those taxpayer dollars. Those are easy.
Yeah.
it was amazing. I just find that absolutely amazing that money was paid
There's
out.
no
on that.
regard for the taxpayer. That's the bottom line. I have to cover up, so I'm going to use your money and everybody else out there's money to make that cover up and make it go away because I don't want that taint on me.
Yeah, yeah. Something stinks in my wastebasket, and it's got to get out of there.
Right.
Call a janitor in here. Have him get this out of here. Pay him extra. Well,
right.
okay. Well, that was interesting, but you know what? We got something that's a little more concerning at this point. I mean, this is going to be dealt with, the thing we just talked about. But now we've got some a sponsorship for an LGBT flag, LBGT.
Right.
Sometimes I get those turned around. I'm sorry. But Alderman Lemke has brought up a request to sponsor an LBGT flag for Uptown.
Right.
And you've got a clip.
Yeah,
You wanna-
let's play the clip.
Let's
and then
play
we'll-
that so that
Yeah.
everybody's kind of up to speed.
Communication from an alder requesting sponsorship of a LGBT pride flag for Uptown District. Isn't that an item that typically would get referred to a committee, or is there some timely issue in this that this has to be taken up in the Office of the Mayor's report?
There is a timeliness matter, given that June is Pride Month. The desire was to have it scheduled for this meeting so that we could adequately celebrate Pride Month in Uptown during the month of June.
No, I think it comes up a little later in discussion, but that was just simply not the case.
No, not at all.
This was not about the time to fly the flag. The flag could be flown anytime.
Yeah,
because
the
they're
flag
flying
is
them right now, as a matter of fact. This was a different topic. So that this rush thing, I think, was to bypass bypass the committee, not let it
Absolutely.
go there for discussion, because there things might get discussed like what we're going to discuss now.
Right.
The LGBT Center, who is a resident of the Uptown District, requested to place a number of pride flags in the area to sort of support some of the work that they're doing. They are fundraising for the vast majority of the pride flags and sort of doing that themselves. They've also brought a request to the county to sponsor one flag, and they brought a request just to sponsor one flag to the city of Racine. Currently, they're thinking it will be about $50.
Now, I think the key operating word there is sponsor.
Right.
All right. There's going to be a little discussion about the amount, which is very insignificant. But the idea was the city would sponsor this. All right.
Well, one of the situation that exists right now is the mayor has made a proclamation and called June Gay Pride Month. So I don't understand
Right.
what the need for this discussion is at all.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because the mayor's already made that proclamation.
Yeah.
What's
There's
with
no
the
rush to-
sponsorship of the
right.
flag also, unless it's just a little more icing to the cake or something like that. I don't know. It's real.
So is this flag just to be flown during June, or is this to be flown year-round, or?
Alder Lemke?
That is a great question. I would believe that it would probably be throughout the year. It won't be taking up any of the city posts. They're doing it themselves, so.
Now, that's another significant point, is that this is not going to be put on city property.
Right.
All right? And we've had a chance to look at it, but Sandy Widener thinks on her feet real well on this, because it's really just on private property. In other words, they're just putting up flags around town, don't need anybody's permission.
Well, and she brings that up in her.
She does bring it up, yeah,
comment.
yeah.
Why would this request have to come to the council or anywhere? I mean, if you can fly a flag on private property without coming to the city for a request, are we setting a precedent here where we now are requiring individuals to get permission from the city to fly flags of their preference, that they're going to require city approval?
Alder Lemke?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's not necessarily because it is going to be flown on private property. It's because they're asking for the city to sponsor one in the amount of $50. So it's the $50 cost, essentially.
By the way, Sandy is asking some great questions there.
Yeah.
I think Alderman Lemke is being a little less than truthful there. It's really not about the $50. I mean, that's nothing. It's about the significance of the city sponsoring the flag. In other words,
And like I said, there was already a proclamation made.
Now we're also going to have a city-sponsored flag,
Right.
and that's
Should be interesting when he's going to have the county is now been asked to sponsor a flag. Now, there is legislation, and I don't believe there's any legislation on what flies on a public property, a flagpole, with legislation in the city of Racine. Now, I don't think there is anything that says yes, you can put one up or you can't put one up.
Well, you
I
can't
think-
you can't just go down to the city hall
No, but
flagpole and hang any kind
Here's
of flag
where it goes.
up there.
They've bypassed all of the committee. Where,
Yeah.
when they talk about, well, you've got public input. There's no public input on this. The mayor contacted the alderman, or the alderman contacted the mayor. They decided that they're going to put this into the common council. They drop it into the common council, ask for $50, it gets approved. That's it.
But they could have done it any time. They didn't have to do it now. I mean, they make it sound as though there's some urgency to
Well,
it. That's
I mean,
just
it-
not
that-
true.
we talked about. Remember that was the same with the hotel. Buy
Everything
now,
is urgent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got to do it now.
Got to do it now.
The-
So we got to
the-
bypass all the safeguards. We got to bypass all those or discussions.
Yeah, and the thing, if it's gone to the committee, then it's going to get discussed.
Right.
And that's
people
where
will have
also
a chance to
that's right.
Well,
Because people will have a chance to go to the committee meeting and voice some
right.
their concerns about it,
Plus
or
or
minus. What if-
support of it, or whatever they're going to support. Let's say
What if somebody else wants the city to buy a flag for them?
that's a good idea.
I mean,
We could have other flags.
well,
really,
I like talking
didn't-
Racine.
didn't you-
Talking
The
Racine up there.
Rotary's got a flag, right?
Didn't you say somebody has already now made sent in a question about that?
Surprisingly, we got an email that says that the alderman. Now this is the city. Now we're moving into the city flagpole now. The Alderman Perez has requested a Christian flag to be placed on.
I like that. I like. Let's get some more flags out there.
No, where does it stop? I mean, where does it stop when you start to sponsor? We sponsored, if you remember right, Visioning Racine
Yeah.
for $10,000. That was another very similar to this. We sponsored. Now they're
Do they
having
have a
money
flag?
problems. I don't know.
Well, can we have a flag fund like $50 a week? You know, anybody that needs a flag, come on down.
Taxpayers have lots of money.
Yeah. Boy, you can really get some flags going.
$50 is nothing, according to Melissa.
Yeah,
It's an agenda. This is an agenda to push their agenda forward. This
Well,
is
that's what I'm saying. It's not the $50. It's
No.
significance. And if we're going to get significant, I mean, I think other groups should be recognized just as much as the LGBT.
This is a community.
And we can start with the Christians. We can go ahead with the police department. We could have a
well, how
flag
about
for-
how about something for the taxpayers? Yeah, that's
taxpayers flag.
Near,
What
dear
was
to
it?
your heart.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got one. Do they have one?
Yeah, it's white.
A white flag?
Yeah, it stands for surrender.
Taxpayers flag is a surrender flag.
We give up. Take whatever you want.
That's why.
So it's not Alder Lemke sponsoring, it's the city of Racine sponsoring?
I'm personally sponsoring it. I brought it before the city of Racine.
Okay. Okay, so here's what my concern on this is, and I understand that, you know, here we are at almost the end of June, and that there is a timely issue on this, but I think these kind of communications need to be forwarded to the committee and not just a decision made by one alderman and the mayor and then given to the council for a vote without any kind of committee or public ability to have input into these kind of decisions. And it's not really specific to this particular LGBT pride flag, but it's just, I see this process happening at every council meeting where more items that used to be discussed in a committee are now coming to the council for a last-minute vote without any opportunity for the public to weigh in on these decisions. And I hope that's a trend that's not going to continue.
Alder Lemke?
Thank you. I appreciate the Alder of the Sixth concern and very much intend to try to communicate things in a timely manner. I think part of the reason that it may not have come before the committee is due to the amount of the request.
That again was just not the case. I mentioned it earlier. I'll mention it again. It wasn't the $50. It was a significant. I'd also like to point out that under the old system where all communications, remember they announced it at the beginning of the meeting, all communications from any person, which would include an individual citizen, a group, an alderman, or a staff member, would go to the city clerk, be announced at the council meeting, and then the decision is made which committee it goes to. So all communications come in and go to a committee meeting, it gets discussed.
You're talking about the ordinance.
That's the old system.
How things get on the agenda for the council.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how they got on the agenda also for the committees.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it came to the council but it was just all the communications.
Right.
Then it would go to committee, then it come back to the council for final action. Well, all that was taken out. And I think we did that chart up there, and I'd like to there's a little correction to the chart. I missed something, not real critical, but it's significant. Again, it's important. And here's the way it used to be, the way the ordinance used to read. All ordinances, resolutions, memorials, petitions, remonstrances.
Wait.
Remonstrance.
I've heard the word. I've seen it used, but I don't really have clarity how it applies here.
Well, what the definition of that is right out of the dictionary, it's a forcefully reproachful protest. Somebody gets ticked off, writes a letter to the council, guess what? It gets read, it gets considered, it goes to committee to be handled.
Not anymore, though.
Not anymore. That got taken out.
So I think back in the days when government was first taking its form here in the United States and in localities like Racine, Wisconsin, they recognized that some of the things that were going to be done were going to raise anger in some of the public. And if you're pissed off about something, you had a right to bring your anger to the council, to the government,
Absolutely.
have it discussed, and have your anger soothed, or maybe
That's
you
right.
would cause them to knuckle under and not do what it was that they wanted to do to make you mad. That's gone.
That was very good. And also that was a lot of confront. In other words, they're willing to deal with what's going on out there.
Yeah.
Not saying, no, we're not going to discuss things like that. That's too much for us. It's insulting.
It's a personal attack.
Yeah, all right. But it says, all those shall be in writing with the name of the alderman or person presenting the same endorsed thereon. And then it's presented to the clerk. Now, a lot of that got taken out. Here's the way it reads now. All ordinance, resolutions, and other communications. That's it. No remonstrances, no memorials, no petitions. All ordinances, resolutions, and other communications of the Common Council shall be in writing with the name of the mayor or the alderman presenting the same above. I did not pick that up. It took out person.
Took out business.
Yeah.
So now the only person that can submit a communication is the mayor or an alderman, which in this case was Alderman Lemke.
Yep.
So that has been the change. So it was more of a cutout than I thought. I thought that as an individual you could present it, and if it didn't get considered, you got your 250 signatures. No. You don't even get presented. You start off with your 250 signatures.
Yeah. You have now closed it up.
Yeah, so basically the public was cut out of the direct communication with the council. Another attempt at this closure of the government from the public, and now we have to go through certain channels in order to get heard. So it was a big cut of what's going on there.
I don't know about you, George, but I'm feeling remonstrative.
But again, here is the perfect example. We're only talking, 2 weeks away or 2 council meetings away?
Yeah.
And they're already just circumventing the system where we're just going to get to the mayor, to the alderman, we'll get it to the council, and then, everybody approves.
Now, on this one, they even circumvented the committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody gets to speak on this.
Yeah. An alderman or mayor was enough. That's enough discussion.
It's exactly how we're going to orchestrate how this stuff gets pushed through. And that's what we've got here now. And you have no representation anymore. As far as a taxpayer, I just don't see it.
Well, you may. You may, but don't
exactly.
count on it.
Yeah.
You can still go to your alderman, and if your alderman wants to handle your remonstration.
You can pull this off in the light of day. You can do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You can pull it off in the light of day. and this can happen at any time. We had a police study, $100 and some $1,000, just
Yeah, more and
out
more
of
is
their
going
account, boom, there it goes. This is why we need, first off, we need an audit, something fierce in this
Yeah.
community. Extreme RDA, absolutely. But the other thing is this open checkbook that's been talked about, that every check that's
absolutely.
written should be
and
visible to the public.
concern that you had, Jim, is hands are getting into fewer people. I think the word for that is oligarchy.
Yep.
We're going into that type of government where instead of it being broad-based, where people can participate in it, it's getting narrower and smaller.
It becomes
and
a small
higher
amount,
top,
and then they all have to think alike, and that's exactly what you've got here. You've got this completely tightening up to all think alike. Everybody works together for this cause. That anyone else outside of that is not included. And
Yeah, we're heading in that direction. That's
Absolutely.
for sure.
Well, in
We're
that
going
open
way.
checkbook, it goes right back to that first topic we were talking about in that financial settlement that was alluded to.
Yep.
In the past they have sealed certain things like that.
They tried. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to fight to get them out because they want to make it look as though that can be sealed, but it cannot be. Anytime you spend taxpayers' money, that is open to.
Well,
and
it
it
makes sense
should be
because
available to us online
We're
on our
paying
cell
for it.
phone,
We're
computer,
a party
whatever.
to the whole thing. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, I can understand not needing the person's social security number, exactly what
Right.
the ailment was, but when it comes to the money,
Yeah.
now we're involved.
Exactly.
And I don't think that's not personal anymore. That's public.
Our third topic of the day is Gatehouse Capital and the hotel that they're planning on putting in down in the parking lot of Festival Hall.
This has gotten very interesting.
Yeah. And it's
I mean,
going to
my concern about was the hotel going to take over Festival Hall because it's very close. They're going to have $48 million involved in it, and they're going to want to control what goes on over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the contract seems to have handled that in a very, I consider, unusual way.
Yeah.
About that first 15 feet.
Yeah, that's
Right.
I'll let you guys describe it.
The public will own the first 15 feet of height over that
That's from the
whole,
lake bed, filled-in lake
Yeah.
bed, up 15 feet.
which is it's the first story plus a little bit is basically what it comes down to. 'Cause,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the first floor of hotels are often pretty high, so they're allowing for
And
that.
this is where there's supposedly public access, and then it's going to be the top of the hotel, the second, the very top, and then the rooftop for public access. Now,
There's some interesting questions that come up in regard to that
Well,
first 15 feet.
mine is this legislation that is going to, they're hurrying up pass through. Let's get this through so we can get this 48 million. I never seen a city that can't, spend millions of dollars and got to hurry up and spend millions, but they'll talk about the lawnmower and what kind of engine's going to be on the lawnmower so they can decide if that engine's going to be enough to cut the grass. I mean, for crying out loud, but a $50 million project, let's hurry up, get that baby through. There's just it's just the thought process.
Well, and we as citizens just need to slow them down a little bit if that's possible.
Yeah.
Now, the first 15 feet, we're discussing it now. I'm just going to put in a couple words here that is still publicly controlled
Correct.
And publicly maintained.
and publicly maintained.
In other words, guard your checkbook because who knows what's going to happen in that first 15 feet? Because one of my concerns is that's where most of the mechanicals are in any building.
Well,
The furnace, all of the sewer and water connections, probably all your communications connections are going to be there.
Yep.
And
my
air
concern is
conditioning,
typically those things are below ground, and if I was going to do something with this, that's the next thing I want to cover. The first 15 feet is fine. That's supposed to be for convention and
Meeting rooms.
meeting rooms. It's controlled. That will be controlled by the city. Probably be with the civic center.
Yeah.
By the way, the money involved in upkeep of that first 15 feet is with the public also.
Right.
And by the way, that's where a lot of the main structure is going to be. So if something starts happening to that bottom part of the structure, guess who's got to pay for it? But if something goes
Again.
wrong with things below ground, who's in charge of that?
Well, let's just say, for instance, let's say this project moves forward, and that's a big if too. Let's say it moves forward, and let's just say it's successful. What about the rest of the property along at this public-private partnership stuff along Pershing Park? It could be anything along here now. Now, if it's a free-for-all, and I mean, obviously we want development, but when it happens like something like this. politicians are great to give away property that the public owns because it makes them look good. It also sets up that campaign contributions with the developers that sets up. This is a nice little trifecta for a politician. So we have to look at, are they really concerned about the taxpayer? Are they concerned about their position as a politician? And let's face it, this public partner, this would have never happened 30 years ago. They would have said, what are you talking about? There would have been festivals there. This property would have been, it's been mismanaged. And now it comes to this level where we're going to get saved by this corporation.
Which I think is the real problem, is that the festival hall has been so mismanaged that we need to put something else there to get some activity going down there.
Yep.
As opposed to, my gosh, you look at the calendar of things going on in the city. My God, it's just loaded with festivals and things happening, and they're doing it all over the city. And why isn't anybody doing it down at Festival Hall?
Festival Hall.
That's what
why
it was
aren't
supposed.
the festivals
You
at
should have
Festival
been able to
Hall?
go down there any time during the weekend, Friday through Sunday, and there's something going on down there.
Yep.
Yeah, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And so now we got a hotel coming in, and now we have to be concerned about. What about that original intent? That was.
Exactly.
Is that going to be covered over or clouded over because you have this hotel?
And you know
here?
as well as I do, George, you're running a business. You want absolutely to have that business be as profitable as possible. And if the public is in the way, let's say a guy's walking through with a couple of coho. Hey, where do I get these cleaned? He's got to get out of here. I mean, I'm just saying, there's always this overshadowing that can happen when you have a public-private partnership, and sometimes it's unwritten, but it happens. I know there was a pool at the on that marina, and that pool was a big controversy at one point.
Oh, it's still down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's public pool, but how many kids are really going down there to swim? You know what I mean? I know there was some, that overshadowing, like, oh, geez, we don't know if we want, you kids here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what can happen when you get these public-private partnerships type of thing. Now, that was county, but it's still, that can very much happen.
There's all kinds of degrees of the public-private partnership. In other words, from where the public does almost everything to where the private does almost everything. So it's really important for us to keep an eye on exactly what's going on down there, because it's still wide open. That $48 million we could find we're contributing to that first 15 feet.
Yeah,
who knows
right,
what we're going to put in for it to keep the project moving, and that was what sucked us into this whole Machinery Row thing.
Right.
But we're the guys. We're the guys that'll keep an eye on it for you. We'll watch, and every time we get information about this particular, any of these items that we covered today, we'll get back to you and we'll let you know what's happening. And that's going to close it up for today.
Yep.
So I hope you learned something. We did, didn't you?
I think so.
Yeah,
I feel a lot
was
smarter.
good. Yeah.
We'll see you next week. Thanks for being here.